Adrian, mate, thank you so much for jumping on and joining me. We've obviously just had a bit of a chat about your journey over the last few months, which has been explosive to say the least, which has been amazing. Before we jump into that and how you're able to go from, I think when you came in, you're doing 2, 3, 4, 5K a month or something like that, and then you jumped up to, was it less than that or more than that? I can't.
Yeah, often less than 2K. Yeah.
2K,
Yeah.
2K, then I mean going to 38
Or less.
like last
Yeah,
month,
yeah. And
in
38. Yeah. Yeah.
insane. Doing another 20K month is amazing. We'll get into all the weeds of that. But obviously, firstly, congratulations. But before we do jump into what you did and how it all worked, I'd love to just hear a bit about you and your business and where were things were at, I guess, before you and I met and connected.
Yeah, yeah. So we started just with a friend from work, started a skincare business. Her family's got a background in making skincare, so kind of made sense that we would try our own hand at like our own brand, I guess. And yeah, I guess I do sort of more of the marketing and e-commerce side of things. She does more of the sort of product side of things. And yeah, I guess that was kind of it in a nutshell. And we started out and we launched, and I guess we were running the store for probably at least 9 months before like I started to realize like we probably need some help, or I need to think about some other ways to approach this, or I need like a just like a better approach, really. Yeah. And that's
Mm.
sort of where I started looking into this and signing up for the course, really, because I thought we're in those conversations of like, is this really working? This isn't going to work. How do we make it work? Probably need a bit of a guide. And should we, even conversations around like, should we just shut this down and go back to day jobs kind of thing? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, there's some real conversations that obviously happen and need to happen with, yeah, when things aren't running as you thought they would, because when we start our businesses, it's all rainbows and lollipops and we're running on, motivation and inspiration. And yeah, getting 6 months, 12 months down the line, we can certainly lose faith in well, the products and ourselves and like, have all those internal thoughts that can really sort of eat us up. And so was it more of like just a almost last ditch kind of effort for you in the sense of let's get help and see where it can go and then we'll make a call, or how did it sort of transpire there?
Yeah, it was a bit feeling like we need to just look, let's have a last ditch kind of effort on this. Let's have a bit of a like refresh, rethink. We'll try this and see how we go. We still felt good about our product, I should say that. Like we still
Hmm.
felt really good about our products. We The products are made by my business partner's mum. So like she's been making skincare for 30 plus years. And so we felt really good about the product. It was more, we were running ads and doing, I guess more sporadic bits and pieces of kind of effort and getting traffic, but not getting the conversions we needed on the other side. And so it was sort of like, we need to rethink this. Like, is there something we're missing?
Yeah.
Have we got all those sort of, foundational concepts correct? And yeah, so revisiting all of that's been really powerful.
Yeah, awesome. And obviously you mentioned that you were kind of actively looking for some support, which is good. With
Mm.
making, I guess, the final commitment to jump into the blueprint, like did you guys have reservations at that point? I mean, was there any uncertainty
Yeah,
at that point?
I think, yeah, yeah, definitely had some uncertainties. The biggest thing holding me back was actually me. And I think confronting that with myself was probably one of the biggest things. I work in marketing and work in this sort of field full time. And so a lot of it was like a sense of kind of embarrassment of like, I already do this stuff day to day. Why can't I make it work for this totally new thing that I'm working on? So that was sort of the biggest hurdle for me. And then, yeah, I guess once I started to be like, well, you know what? Like everyone needs help. Everyone needs a guide, or everyone needs a coach. Everyone, if you want to succeed, there's no harm in asking for help. And I just thought, well, let's just dive in, and if
Mm.
we can make it work, we can make it work. If we can't, that's fine too. Like, but I'll learn something on the journey. So
Yeah.
yeah, I kind of just was happy to throw a bit at it and see how I went. Yeah.
I mean, that's an amazing kind of realization or self-dialogue or even between yourself and business partner. And honestly, not a point that people get to like commonly. Like, I mean, I talk about sort of my journey, and I had a business partner too with my brother, obviously. And it was like 5 years before we were having, or I was even having this internal conversation about getting help with the business. Like, same thing. We were just like, yes, we can do it. We don't need anyone's help. I remember because we like a lot of business owners, you get approached all the time and for services and stuff. And I recall that same thing. And then once you were on the other side and like you can sort of you feel like someone's got your back or you've got some direction, it's so empowering. And you can just kind of like almost relax and take a breath. And that you're not obviously, yeah, on your own. So I can definitely, relate to that.
Yeah, and
Um,
we were talking before about just how hard it is. I think like it's much easier to join in on an established brand and continue to ride the wave versus like going from like zero. And I
mm.
think we were still at zero, and I was finding that very hard and very challenging. But I think everyone does, and I think everyone has to go through that. And yeah, yeah, a lot more respect for all the small business owners out there that are hustling and doing it hard like this. Yeah.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And when you got to wear all the hats as well, when you're working with more established brands and businesses, they have market presence, they have 5 years of customers, they have big budgets. It's a different kettle of fish. Whereas starting from the zero early stages, you're still scratching the surface and scratching around for validation and what people want and mucking around with price points. And we're talking about messaging and language, before. It's a lot of different variables, I guess you could say, to find what's going to work. And then you get a little breadcrumb here and there. And that's all
Yeah.
part of the fun, but certainly if it's taking the time, it certainly takes its toll as well. And so to have, and I'm speaking from personal experience here, to have people to look over your shoulders under the hood of your business and see, like, what about that? Did you notice that? Did you notice that? And be like, that was in front of my eyes the entire time, but I couldn't see it as it might have been the blind spot that I just didn't realize. That sort of thing is the difference between like crawling and then running. So there's things there that we basically don't know what we don't know. And it takes a responsible business owner, again, speaking of personal experience here, to realize that we need to get help with our businesses. That was kind of one big thing that, in the initial stages for me and what I continue to learn, even as I progress and grow my businesses, is like, if the people above you are saying that they have mentors or they read books or they meditate or they have a routine, it's like, who are we to want what they have and not think that we can get away with not doing those things? A mentor being a big thing was a big trend that everybody I looked up to and learned from had a mentor and someone that they learned from. So that was a big thing. Like, same as you, it's like, well, look, if that's the option I've got, then I've got to throw my hat in the ring too and get involved in this thing. And so yeah, I'm really glad. And obviously, it's only been a couple of months in doing so, but some efforts obviously pre-program and through the program have also compounded as well. So going from less than that 2K to, you mentioned like 38K in a couple of months is insane. Do you want to talk through? You can definitely talk about through the big bang strategy, and then we can talk about some other things that you've since continued the momentum with as well.
Yeah. So I mean, we got I don't want to call it luck. It was more like we were trying to get our product in the hands of the right people many months ago, and we were very fortunate that somebody quite influential did get their hands on the product. They did come back and buy the product from us, and then eventually started talking about us and what triggered the whole thing was they talked about us on their podcast. Like pretty much immediately that morning, it was sort of breakfast time and orders were coming in, and myself and the co-founder are kind of texting each other like, what's going on? Like, do you know these people? Like, who is this? And then kind of just kept going all day, and we had like our biggest order day ever. It was like quite a surreal experience, to be honest. And then when this influencer also then probably in the middle of the day posted on Instagram like clips of the podcast as well. and that started like another wave of orders, and that was just also just sort of like super exciting. And
Mm.
yeah, and we've kind of, that was the thing that triggered like all the momentum that month. And yeah, since then have worked on our messaging and our positioning. And obviously that experience made it a lot easier because the words and the things that this influencer gave us sort of helped position the product and the product messaging that we're using. But we redid the website and we rethemed to fix all of our messaging and positioning. We I started running more ads and running ads on primarily Facebook and Instagram, and that seems to be working quite well for us and keep the momentum going. I want to look at more ads on things like TikTok as well, but and more on Google as well. But I don't think I've quite got everything working how I want just yet. But like it's all starting. And then spending a lot more time on just like email flows and getting our emails up to, just making sure everything was working. And probably one of my biggest wins lately has been fixing some of our pop-up signups and everything, and making sure like we've kind of since the start of this month, we've sort of tripled our signups. Like at the daily signups we were getting has sort of doubled or tripled each day. So it's like been a big win to get more people through the funnel. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and as you're sort of hinting, certainly starting with that foundational type stuff, with as we spoke about, previously off air, was around getting the wording and the messaging and how our audience perceives the benefits, or what we're trying to talk about is honestly the $1 million question and effort we should be, working on all the time, which pours into our assets and marketing. And so to get that immediate, such a big rush of data, I guess you could say, like to our product and our site and through our assets, is invaluable. It's going to just set you on that trajectory, or continue that trajectory massively.
Yeah.
It's so important, and to you be able to, build on that. And you've obviously got now like really clear evidence of obviously what works. And it does take some time to figure that stuff out, look, I mean, I don't necessarily believe in luck. I think luck's a counterpoint of timing and preparation, and that's exactly what you'd been doing for the last 9, 10, 12 months, and so everybody deserves what they get. Let's just sort of say that. And now it's obviously, continuing the good work, continuing focusing on those 3 areas, as you mentioned: emails, obviously ads, and then more influencer marketing to continue to get in people's hands and get that exposure. And that's the best thing about what I love about online, is that it is accessible. Like nothing's been more affordable to do, right? The fact that we can just send someone a product, they can post about it to their thousands of followers and get customers. Like that's pretty crazy when you think about it. So I love that that's, been a big part of your strategy and what's worked, obviously. With just some thoughts on the program. You mentioned, I think earlier, that, the messaging and the foundationals type stuff was something that you were, you knew you kind of had to work on. What have you sort of found about the program generally, whether it is the community or the support or the training?
Yeah. I mean, the course itself is valuable. Just to I think probably the big value for me is like visiting, like going straight to things that I think I needed to work on, like those foundational pieces. Secondly, I think it takes, especially when you're in a kind of co-founder relationship, it can take some of the like, should we look at this first or look at that first? Or should we put our attention and our effort over here, or should we put it over here? You kind of eliminate a lot of that because you're like, hey, there's a playbook here. Let's just run through it. Like, let's not just skip steps. Let's like run through this thing. So that really, like, I can't really articulate how helpful that kind of, can't underemphasize, I should say, how important that is to sort of have like, hey, like a clear path forward here is just to stick to this. And then the community is actually, super great. I've found a lot of like, just the general positivity is very like refreshing. And I find that like being able to kind of search through the community that somebody else has already had this problem, or somebody else has already had this challenge. And so how do we see how other people are doing it? And if there's nothing recent or nothing coming up, like posting a thread and having a bunch of people like ping you back, and even just being able to share like, hey, this is something that we just had some success with. Um, and I think the amount of stuff that's being shared at the moment on AI and like helpful tools and resources is just like, yeah, it's phenomenal. I'm really really loving it. It's kind of, it's the only way to say it. Like I'm really loving getting some of this, like what other people are doing that's helping in an area like SEO, and just sort of being like, cool, I can't wait to dive in on this. Like, let's do it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm really glad you brought up all those points, but I think what the kind of underlying thing there is really that like immersion. It's, the people that I see get the best results, and there's some outliers, of course, but the ones that I definitely see get the best results immerse themselves in the community, in the program, and almost like live and breathe it, because outside of this program or that program, we don't like necessarily have friends or family that we can talk shop with. Certainly we can't necessarily like celebrate big wins or talk about challenges that people understand. And so that's really one aspect, as you mentioned, the positivity for sure. There's always something more we can be doing, or there always is another idea that we can be working on. And we obviously massively prioritize that in terms of motivating each other, but using useful tools as well. As you say, someone's likely been through what you're going
Yeah.
through, and also they're sharing their battle tested processes. Like, this is what I just did. Like, that's what the whole program's based off, obviously. But then people like yourself who are just coming in and saying, this is what we did, guys, and this is how it worked. Like, try it if you like. And it's like, that is crazy in real time value for people. So, I'm so glad that you obviously mentioned that. That's awesome.
Yeah. No.
Um,
Yeah. The fast tracking and shortcutting that can do is phenomenal. Yeah. Just being
totally.
able to ask somebody on a thread, did you do it this way or this way?
Yeah. I know. Get your answer straight away. Exactly.
And they're like,
Exactly.
do
Yeah.
it this way. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't do that way. Yeah. Amazing, mate. Well, look, I've just got one more question, and then we can wrap it up. But I'd love to, I guess, hear now that you're kind of on the other side somewhat, if you can recall to where you were a few months ago when you guys were questioning the business and what you do next before you got the help, like, what would you sort of say to people in that same circumstance, like about what they should do next and the thought process that they should really go through? Having, I guess, had the wisdom of, the last 3 months condensed as they've sort of been an intense, but having that
Yeah.
hindsight, I guess, looking back, like what would you sort of share, to those people?
I mean, like I said about me, like big part of this was just getting out of my own way. So I feel like, you know, I feel like the bigger risk is doing nothing, is kind of what I would say.
Mm.
Because for me, I sort of sat there umming and ahhing on the risks of doing a course or doing another thing. And then, the big advantage I saw here was like, I'm going to get some one-to-one help. I'm going to be able to ask the community. I'm going to get, like you said, immersed in this whole thing. If I put myself in that environment, am I going to, the chances of me failing go down dramatically. So it was just sort of like, look, get out of my own way, get out of my own head a little bit, and just kind of back myself and have a crack. And so, yeah, the bigger risk is doing nothing.
I love that. I think that's, yeah, as I say, like amazing hindsight and lessons for people, because the best lessons to learn from other people's not your own. Like, so no, I really appreciate you sharing all of that, Adrian. Again, congrats. More big things to come. I'm really excited for you guys, what's to come. But thanks for sharing that. I know that's going to be valuable for people. So, thank you so much, man.
Appreciate it. Appreciate your time, Will.
Awesome.